The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Maynard Bangs presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Bangs.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People versus Ocean's 8, a 2018 heist film that follows a group of women as they plan and execute a daring theft during the high-profile Met Gala. For those of you... The movie said it was... For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Big Ben Haslar, you are representing the prosecution. You may begin your opening statement.
Your Honor, I am prepared to do the impossible today. I'm going to try and get Ryan Luis Rodriguez, host of One Track Mind, to speak poorly of a Cate Blanchett movie. Like many heist movies, Ocean's 8 is a tangled mismatch of impossibilities that we're supposed to overlook because the crew looks so stylish and cool, breaking into places and handing off things right under security's noses because they're all so smart. But when you start even asking, well, wait, what if security did this instead of that? You realize the whole thing is kind of a house of cards that would rely on a tremendous degree of luck and laziness on the writer's part for not plugging up all the holes, some of which they draw your attention to again and again by talking about this blind spot with the assumption that everything else security would be reviewing. They keep telling you this, hey, this blind spot, everything else they'll see. And yet there's a lot of things you could say that they would see upon a close review of this security footage. I'm sure there's a blindside joke in here somewhere, but I'll let Maynard find it. Ocean's 8 is a pale imitation. You'll find it. I believe in you. It's a pale imitation of an already declining franchise. There's no reason to use the Ocean's name, really, but they did so anyway to give a handful of cameos to anchor you into what came before it, admitting full on to us as audience members that if it weren't a part of some well-known franchise, we probably wouldn't be watching it at all. Ocean's team did manage to actually steal something, however. 2 hours of my time, and I'm absolutely pressing charges.
Well, you could have probably wasted it anyway, Mr. Haslar, so thank you. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mrs. Kaleigh DuLac. Please present your opening statement.
Members of the jury, I stand before you today in defense of a movie that has been raked through the mud, and for what? I myself avoided watching this movie after hearing endlessly how terrible it was. That it was just another failed attempt at a female version of a male-dominated movie franchise people have come to know and love. When I did watch the film, however, I was surprised by the star-studded cast of funny, creative characters. While I sat there waiting for some old Ocean's 11 plot lines and character banter, with a not really all that shocking anymore plot twist at the end, I found myself engaged in an entirely different film. I appreciated that it didn't follow the Ocean's 11 trope, that it isn't just the female version of Ocean's 11. It's similar enough to belong in the franchise, but different enough to be its own film. And then I found myself wondering, is this a bad film or are people just blinded by other factors? My stance is that this is not a bad film. And while it's not an Oscar-worthy blockbuster, this was a rather enjoyable film for several reasons. I'm here to defend the slandered name of Ocean's 8, and I hope you, the jury, will come to see what I saw in this movie. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. DuLac. Very few blockbusters end up being Oscar-worthy.
No.
Mr. Haslar, please proceed with your first exhibit.
There's Gladiator, Titanic. Yeah, I can think of a few. Anyway, my first exhibit is Debbie Ocean. There's no mentioning of this character at all before this movie. It seems like if she did exist in prior films, Danny Ocean would have likely recruited her at some point, given how skilled and smart she is. They kill off Danny Ocean, however, off screen. in between movies, which always sets the tone for a well thought out franchise. Everything, if you're invested in this guy's story, he's gone. He may or may not be dead, but he completely makes no appearance at this. Who does make appearances are little cameos of Gould here. And yeah, that completely is very familiar to you. Why not just make this a new heist franchise? Is the Ocean's name really that marketable? Especially if what you're making bears so little resemblance to that original product. It's an all-girls version of the team, which I kind of find weird because at some point, Sandra Bullock says explicitly she doesn't want any males on her team. She says hims get noticed, hers get ignored. But their plan is to rob the Met Gala. Who gets noticed at the Met Gala? Beautiful women in dresses get noticed at the Met Gala. Guys don't get noticed at all. No schlubby guys.
Well, a beautiful man, a man in a beautiful dress would absolutely get noticed at the Met Gala.
He would get noticed, but no one else would. So for this particular heist, her reasoning doesn't make sense. And beyond that, all of her thefts leading up to this are ridiculous. Like her being able to pick up things in a store without having them like de-tag the thing so she can walk through the sensor. She just brings it to the desk and says, "Oh, I'd like to return this." "Oh, you won't let me return it?" "Okay, I'll take it anyway." At no point is any security features disabled on this sort of thing. The writers are trying to just make her appear very clever when it is in fact lackluster.
So, Mrs. DuLac, is there, anything to this? Does killing off known characters off screen and introducing whole new ones help connect it to previous films?
I would say that to the point that he was making with having the female characters need to be represented here, killing off someone else doesn't really make sense. I don't know that it's necessarily, something that furthers the plot. However, it does allow our character to talk to Danny Ocean without needing to actually cast this male character who would steal the thunder from, our beautiful new cast who we're trying to focus on, and not just, when is he going to come in? When is he going to be the next thing in this plot? When are they going to include that one man just to make this the Ocean's theme?
All right, Mr. Haslar, would you like to proceed with your next exhibit?
Yes, this is a smaller one, Your Honor, but it bugs me so
there
much.
There are no small exhibits. Only small
This one is a small exhibit because it is glasses size. The plot hinges on these pair of glasses that can't possibly exist. They scan objects from one side and yet are able to completely render 3D model objects of the thing, even though you didn't spin around the object. And it's smart enough to know which object they care about that it's scanning. It displays messages on one side of a transparent surface right next to your cornea. But not on the other side, and nobody else in the world has tech this good. If Rihanna is capable of making them, why wouldn't she just sell that patent and then have that be her pathway to richness? There's no reason for these glasses to exist.
Rihanna is capable of a lot of things. Yes, I'd like to hear it.
I believe that this argument is flat and flimsy. Think about all of the James Bond devices that we have seen do incredible things way ahead of their time in these.
Objection, though. He has the Secret Service providing his arsenal.
I'd like to let's let the defense finish.
Well, and so he has the Secret Service. So you're saying that only people working for the government could possibly be intelligent enough to come up with something like this?
She's right. It's ridiculous.
I'd say the government is probably the only ones not intelligent enough to come up with this.
Probably. That's true. They have a pair, and it's like slated for release in 2050. My next exhibit is the impossibility of this heist. We're led to believe that Deb hatched this whole scheme in prison down to exactly how many recruits she'd need, as well as how much money. But then a scant few minutes later, we find out that no one in this team, or that one of this team member is a fashion designer who can only get close to the mark because they haven't chosen their fashion designer yet. There's no way she could have planned for that. And it's Cate Blanchett's character who knows that they'll use that she owes the IRS. Sorry, it's Cate Blanchett that knows that the costumer that they use owes the IRS money. So again, that's convenient. Couldn't have planned for that. It's contingent on a team member being hired by the gala to do their seating because they're so desperate and they don't know. Again, Sandy B could not have planned that in prison. What if someone else applied? I don't know. It's contingent on Anne Hathaway inviting Sandy B's ex to be her +1 by simply placing the two of them together at some lunch beforehand. What if they didn't hit it off? What if one or both of them were dating? What if they were interested in someone else? Again, so many ways this could have fallen apart. They introduced the problem of the necklace that could only be opened by a special magnet, and for them to solve it, they solve it immediately by calling Nineball's sister, who apparently has some kind of magnet expert, and tells them exactly how to make their own. So yeah, that's convenient. No tension there. And it ruins the heist later on because when they replace the fake necklace on Anne Hathaway, the security team didn't notice that, oh, hey, I don't need a special magnet to unlock this thing because when they're putting it back on her, they wouldn't have had time to outfit that fake necklace with this special magnet that they just brought up for no reason right before the heist. Not only does the security team guarding the necklace let Anne continue to wear it after she lost it, but they don't notice this either. And they have no plan the security team had no plan for what if Anne Hathaway does need to go to the bathroom. This is like apparently the best security team in the world, but they had no backup contingency plans. They're like, oh, well, it doesn't have an exit. So yeah, I guess that's cool. What happens if Anne needs to go to the bathroom? What if she decided to steal it? The security team is leaving a whole lot to chance there. And this team, again, couldn't plan for it. It's contingent on no one else being in the bathroom at that time. It's contingent on nobody noticing the necklace sitting on the plate as the busboy approaches them as he moves it from the bathroom to the kitchen. It's contingent on nobody reviewing the security footage where Mindy Kaling pulls out the necklace from the sink. It's contingent on her setting up the whole jewelry crafting table at the Met before the heist and nobody checking the bathroom for tools after the heist. It's contingent on the security team not noticing that everyone that went in and out of the Met is now wearing entirely different clothes after they leave. It's contingent on Thorin Oakenshield failing to not notice that someone who looks exactly like his ex with blonde hair approach him, not notice that she put a diamond in his coat pocket, and this guy's a criminal, mind you, him not checking the coat pocket, or giving it to the dry cleaners or anything at that point between the gala and when she could get someone to frame him. And she gets Anne Hathaway, who joins the team late, to frame him by sleeping him. There's no way she could have planned with this. It is impossible.
So, Mrs. DuLac, apparently there's one or two plot holes in here. Would you like to speak to any of those?
So there were a few in there that I did want to speak to. So there are some issues that come up that they do have to think on their feet for, which I think is a well-known plot trope for heist movies in general. And, the guards not having contingency plans for her going to the bathroom, well, I would like to point out that maybe this is just male ignorance, not having to follow a lady around. And having all of the people planning this security detail being males and not having once thought about that doesn't really seem like a movie plot hole to me so much as a foible of a character. There are a couple of things that, are contingencies that I would grant are a little, why didn't they plan for this? But I think that you cannot plan to a T every single thing of any sort of heist, and you just have to wing it. That's just part of this plan. I do want to bring it back to the very beginning where you were talking about the cast of who is going to be the designer for the gala and how, Sandra Bullock's character could not have planned who that was, and having her boyfriend take Anne Hathaway's character to the gala. These were all subtle manipulations, which we see very clearly in the beginning of the film, that she is excellent at manipulating people into doing what she needs. She's excellent at looking at what are the things that I have to work with and play with, and who is going to be the weak character that I can go after to make this plot happen. I've got this great structure. Now, who are my characters? Who am I going to manipulate? Who am I going to play with? So I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a plot hole so much as it speaks to Sandra Bullock's character.
She's intelligent on that to a very weird degree that it's to the point of implausibility. Like her blowing bubbles to make the designer look all distracted out the window, and apparently this is like the one key that makes Anne Hathaway want to hire her. Like if someone was like distracted in a job interview, like sort of glancing out the window and not at all interested in the dress that she's going to design for you, someone who you have said is a relic and outdated, there's no reason to think that, oh yeah, her staring absentmindedly out the window is what's going to make her hire him.
It's not just the staring out the window. It's the seeming, unattainable, as if I don't really need this job. I don't really need you. And if there's one thing that we all know about actresses is how insecure they are, and how she's just playing into that insecurity by doing this action.
Mr. Haslar, would you like to proceed to further exhibits?
Yes, I'd like to talk about the aftermath of this heist. Anne Hathaway's character reveals she was onto them this whole time. But okay, if that's true, why didn't she just announce to the security, hey, these guys are trying to steal this thing while the heist is going on? Why does she wait until way after when James Corden is interviewing people to join in? And budget Jimmy Fallon, James Corden here is this insurance investor. Even though he's busted Debbie's... Investigator. He's busted Debbie's brother once and her father twice, and yet he seems perfectly fine going along with Debbie's scheme and breaking the law. And he's also apparently the only one in the world that cares about doing anything. There's no police doing their own investigation, combing through this security footage. It's all him, and he's apparently willing to make compromises. Even the people that own the necklace themselves seem to be subjective to James Corden's will. They're not at all interested in recouping their losses here. There's a final twist that apparently they stole way more necklaces than even the team knew about, opening up further issues and plot holes. Why didn't they clue the rest of the team into the fact that they were stealing more than just that one necklace? They could have helped. If you clued them in, hey, maybe we could have gotten the original necklace, these extra necklaces, and maybe a few Rembrandts or something. And if we establish that the cameras are covering everything except the bathrooms, this one blind spot that they keep talking about again and again, but it apparently misses the fact that these people are setting up a bunch of selfie sticks to prop up iPhones to fool the other cameras. And when did they even get the pictures that these original cameras were looking at the room at the time of the gala when everything's set up without Rihanna's help, apparently, because she was clueless to the whole thing. And Mindy was also apparently in on it, or at least her twin sister, because Mindy just shows up out of the bathroom while she was supposedly cutting up this necklace the whole time, but also helps Cate Blanchett load everything into a van. Doesn't add up. And since they're bringing Yen into it, shouldn't it be Ocean's 9? And shouldn't Yen get a cut? Danny gave him a cut when they were doing stuff. He's not doing this pro bono now. And that would just go against the whole all-girls club thing, right? Because girls don't get noticed. But this is the one guy that didn't get noticed. I rest my case.
All right. Miss DuLac, should it have been Ocean's 9?
I think that the Ocean's 8 is definitely a referral to the women in this heist who were involved in the planning, execution, and operation of the full heist. So I don't believe that it should be Ocean's 9.
All right. Well, that's that. Do you want to proceed to your first exhibit?
Yes. Okay. So members of the jury, I would like to draw you to Exhibit A, the cast. This cast is phenomenally put together with major female leads from all across Hollywood, bringing in women that several generations and people who watch various genre of movie can appreciate. From Cate Blanchett, Rihanna, Helena Carter, Awkwafina, and Mindy Kaling, there's representation across the board. I will point out two stunning choices. First, Anne Hathaway plays the oversensitive diva whom we suspect is so full of herself that this theft plot goes completely over her head. And now I would like my esteemed colleague, the prosecution, to pay attention to this as he did this up. ultimately, we do find that she had suspected all along and had been cut into the heist early on, not just at the end when she speaks to the insurance investigator, which only serves to endear the audience more to the plot, given that we aren't benefiting from a hopeless and helpless.
Objection. I don't believe that that's true. I think it's when James Corden is interviewing her where she's like, no, I didn't know this person. And if she was involved in the heist earlier, then why did they like drug her to make her puke in the bathroom?
Well, that would simply be because the acting would be much more believable to everyone else. If she did know that she was going to be drugged, she probably would have overacted to the point where people would have gotten suspicious. You know, we've seen a little bit of her dramatic flair in this film. She's a bit of a diva and not exactly the most fantastic actress out there. So I believe that while making her still the victim of this, necessary plot point, she was very well aware that people were stealing this necklace from her, that she was aware of this. They made her aware of it early on when she was trying on the necklace, when the designer wanted to only use this necklace for the fashion piece. They cut back to scenes of her being suspicious of all of these things. She was cut back in way back there.
And if so, that would also settle the whole date argument as well, then.
Indeed.
Okay, that would explain that, but I don't know that it explains her making him puke or why they didn't tell the team what they were planning this whole time. Because
luckily we don't have to convince you. We only have to convince the jury.
Well, once you start playing with numbers in a criminal crew, like, oh no, now this is what your cut is. People get stabbed when that happens. So Sandy B's not exactly playing it safe there if that's the case.
Actually steal a lot more, so people are cut into a much larger chunk, which is revealed at the end. If they're able to pull this little piece off, that they can pay everyone even more than they thought that they could.
Yeah. Mrs. DuLac, would you like to continue to?
I would like to continue. Thank you. All right. So Sandra Bullock makes a believable and likable con artist from the very beginning, shoplifting expensive skincare products, which she does rake across the desensitizer, I would also like to point out.
Does she? I missed that.
Indeed.
You got to notice things.
Maybe she's too good for me.
And staying in an upscale hotel to reclaim her dignity and glamour after a stint in prison. Her actions are so fluid, her life of luxury does not even feel like a sham, just humorously endearing and, dare I say it, achievable for any woman. I could pontificate about each character's merits, but we would be here for hours. Instead, I will say that each character is unique from one another, something that we rarely get to see in our female characters in action movies. They all come from different backgrounds, have vastly different personalities and eccentricities, and hold different skill sets to contribute to the team, making each of them a valuable asset.
Mr. Haslar, anything you would like to?
I agree that's what they do. It is sort of lifted, I think, like everyone sort of has a template from like the main Ocean's 11. Cate Blanchett is obviously, Brad Pitt's character, and they're even like recreating some of the same things. Like, oh, tell me what this isn't about. Tell me this isn't about revenge, because Cate Blanchett's character, particularly, does nothing. Really, they're underusing her. In fact, they have other team members like text Cate Blanchett specifically, just so Cate Blanchett can be the one who walks into the room and says, "Okay, we got a problem, everyone," instead of again IMing the whole crew.
She makes gyros.
Okay.
Miss DuLac, and any you want to continue on to argumentation or rebut anything?
Yeah, I think I would like to continue on with.
Okay, well, question from the bench: does Cate Blanchett really have something to do in this film, or is she sort of forgotten about?
That is one area that I do find to be a bit of a flaw. She, as far as I can tell, her connections with people, her ability to put together this team that Sandra Bullock is unable to do, as she's been in prison and doesn't have all of the connections to, who's hot and who's looking for work right now. That's about the extent of her abilities, and it gets spent up kind of in the beginning. Now, saying that she's a project manager of sorts that helps support Sandra Bullock's plan and see it into fruition. That's about as much as we can say, because she doesn't have any particular, useful heist skill beyond being able to assemble a fabulous team and keep the head honcho clear-minded and focused.
And apparently staging being a very high-level caterer.
Indeed.
You may continue on with any further exhibits you have.
All right. An excellent cast and set of characters is not all this movie has in store for us. From the very beginning, it has us amused by and rooting for criminals, despite the fact that as criminals, they're effectively hurting corporations instead of gangsters, or those we deem worthy of stealing from. There's no beating around the bush of whether we can argue this crime is actually heroism, because we aren't stealing from other bad guys who just haven't been dealt with the law. These are women stealing from wealthy corporations and benefactors whose only crime is to covet jewels like dragons, keeping them locked away for decades, never to be appreciated. To draw us into their scheme and to make us as an audience want nothing more than for them to get away with stealing from the rich and giving only to themselves is an artistic script writing, to say the least.
I agree, but again, that's another thing that's borrowed from Ocean's 11 almost directly when they're stealing from the casinos, and the casinos are sort of portrayed as being, not uncaring rich people that just sort of make more and more money and get more and more fat. But it was sort of a problem I've had even in those films.
That's the second.
I didn't say the word. I meant fat cat.
You're on thin ice.
I was very careful. But yeah, I mean, I had that problem even then, like rooting for criminals. It's just something that I personally have to accept that this is what I guess people are okay with in these films, even in the Ocean's 11 films. I guess the jury is okay with it.
11's film, it was even a little bit more palatable because they're stealing from large casinos who everyone associates with gangster activity and, being above the law. So I don't think that we see these casino owners as these upstanding citizens. However, the people who own these jewels, there's not really any flaws with them. And so I think that in that we are excited to see them robbed of their jewels anyway. It's a great film to have us rooting on the bad guys' side for once.
Really, it's the insurance company. It's the insurance company that'd be losing out.
And the insurance company. And
they're all bad guys.
I suppose we all... no one really feels too hard.
I guess that's technically all our money. But anyway, if you want to proceed with the next exhibit.
All right. So now let's discuss the elephant in the room. Ocean's 8 is a feminist reboot of the popular Ocean's 11 franchise that came during an era of Hollywood attempting to ride the coattails of social media popularity with feminism. We can admit that Hollywood is not out here trying to further feminist causes. They are a business like any other, trying to capitalize on public interest. Directed by a man and co-authored by a man, it's clear why this is a capitalist venture rather than a female-driven empowering agenda. That being said, having movies like this and representation of powerful women in media is critical to normalizing all female casting, or primarily female casting, in roles that we see as a society as not having been associated with female characters. As clunky as these attempts might be at first, they are important baby steps that open us up to a future where these efforts do not feel as if they grate against societal norms.
Mr. Haslar, why don't you want to see women succeed?
I do, but I agree with what you said. It was a capitalist venture. It was them like saying, hey, female Ghostbusters, that was unpopular for some reason. Let's do that for the Ocean's 11 franchise. And I do wish that they could make these scenes or these movies better. I'm certainly okay with seeing powerful women leading films, and I want to see more of it. The problem is you're kind of trapping yourself when you're making yourself beholden to some other franchise because you think viewers won't watch it unless it has Ghostbusters or Oceans or some other franchise in front of it. And that may be true because I know, viewers are stupid enough where they won't know that Catching Fire is the sequel to The Hunger Games unless it says The Hunger Games Catching Fire. We all need this contract now, apparently, when we're ingesting any sort of movie. So I need to see Oceans in front of it to know that it's a heist film rather than saying, hey, maybe I can write something truly unique and truly original and might empower these women even more.
Just call it Lady Heist.
Ooh, Lady Heist. I like it.
Hey, I like it.
Coming
I
to
think
theaters soon.
honestly, the prosecution has, talked himself into or out of his own argument there. People wouldn't go to see a movie that didn't have a popular franchise associated with it, particularly in an era where we're not used to seeing women in these roles. And there are plenty of examples of, female-driven casts that completely flop despite having fantastic stories, and it's just not what your average viewer is going to go out and see. And so I do think that while these can be clunky attempts, they are important steps for us as a society to normalize, to easily try and ingest these things. And maybe over time, people will be drawn to those all-female casts and they'll go see Lady Heist.
I would point to The Descent as being a good example of what these films should be trying to do. The Descent is not, it's its own original film, and it stars all women, and it doesn't even advertise it. They're just their own characters. They're all a group of friends that go into a cave and have terrible things happen to them down there because it's a horror movie. But it's its own original idea. That's what we should be making.
I mean, I think that's a fabulous idea. And in a perfect world, things like that would be all we would need. And we would have tons of movies out there with strong female-only cast members. But we don't really see too many of those that are successful. We see a few, but not too many.
I would watch Sandra Bullock go spelunking.
I would watch Sandra Bullock do most anything, honestly.
All right. Order.
We can agree to that.
Ms. DuLac, do you have any further exhibits?
I have one final exhibit, Your Honor. I would like to address the most common opposition, which I do appreciate that the prosecution did not stoop to. I would like to say that this is not Ocean's 11. It's a clever heist movie made for a female audience with elements that were different from the all-male crew of Ocean's 11. The heist was pulled off nearly flawlessly with only minor inconveniences, but the suspense of those inconveniences leaves the audience comfortably on the edge of their seat. One criticism of the film is that it lacks the typical plot of something going wrong, and therefore we see a clever way that they have twisted the ending to solve this problem right under even the audience noses. While Ocean's 8 does indeed have a twist, which is an expected trope of this franchise, this version of a heist stands on merits of cleverness, on-your-toes thinking, and ultimately success pulled off in a catwalk of glittering jewels leaving the Met Gala on our criminals' glamorous bodies. Clever women plotting so well, using a combination of skill and manipulation, leaves little room for failure due to their hard work, is a value that women ultimately find attractive in action movies. Just enough suspense to keep you interested, but not gut-wrenching. I'm going to need to turn this off and come back to a drama that comes in a male-centered action movies. As one audience critic says, can we just live in a world where we can agree that men do certain things better than women, and women do certain things better than men? And while this comment came on the back end of a sexist, anti-feminist post of this movie, my answer is yes. Yes, we can agree on this, and I believe that Ocean's 8 does exactly this. It takes the way overdone concept of a heist movie and shows us that what this would look like if a team of women banded together to pull it off. We get a well-executed, multi-million-dollar heist with unique, interesting characters, satisfying revenge, and doing it all in gowns that would make Audrey Hepburn shed a tear.
All right. Thank you both. Both sides have rested their cases. We'll now proceed to closing arguments. Mr. Haslar, you may begin.
Members of the jury, we cannot allow this cinematic travesty to run free. As such, I'm putting together a little crew to ensure that we steal this case. Bam, bam, bam! We got Ryan Ringleader Rodriguez, the brain of the operation, able to dissect a film to its barest elements and expose any flaws. We have Mayhem Maynard, who rampages over films bereft of robots and monsters. And we have the Schlender Man, capable of worming his way out of any counter-arguments. And then, of course, you have me. I'm the bank. And you may find a crisp $5 bill underneath each of your seat cushions. And we have the bailiff man, aka the transporter, who will safely extricate you from the defense team should they get ugly. Together we can steal this case, chop it up into little pieces, divvy up its remains so that no one else can get cut from this blunder. Thank you.
How did you know I have a seat cushion? Get out of my head!
Well, it's our Bruce Stern sheet cushions.
Exactly.
We've had them for weeks now.
Exactly. We've been sitting on them ever since. They cost a pretty penny. Mrs. DuLac, please present your closing argument.
And also have a cool nickname for me.
I mean, now the bar has been set, and I feel a little swept away by this all-male cast of Heist.
I know.
Well, it's just some things that men do better than.
Your Honor, no!
Members of the jury, it has come time for you to decide. I want you to review the evidence brought before you today and search your hearts. Is Ocean's 8 guilty of the egregious crime of being a truly bad movie? Or, as I believe, was it simply an entertaining movie with eclectic characters and a well-planned heist? Allow this movie to stand on its own legs, and I think you will agree. The title Bad Movie is too harsh a judgment for such an enjoyable film. Thank you.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Maynard Bangs, and Mr. 6 Pounds of Diamonds, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
I was invited to see the Met once, but they never gave me peanuts and Cracker Jack. Ugh.
The baseball joke.
Yes.
Swing and a miss.
Oh, boo. Okay, everyone, what a wonderful case that was. It's a pretty, it was a pretty interesting movie. It opens itself up to a lot of comparisons to not only the Ocean's franchise, the new one, but, you can also think back to the old one, which we've covered in previous cases. So, Ryan Luis Rodriguez, what are you thinking about the movie and the case we heard from the defense and prosecution today?
Well, my biggest issue with the film is that I miss the Soderbergh aesthetic. I think that there's something so inherently stylish about his kind of anti-formalist ways that Gary Ross, I don't think, is up to the challenge directorially. And, I think this movie would be at least 30% better if Soderbergh just edited it instead of directing it or writing it or anything, or even being a cinematographer. I think he could have improved a lot of the stylistic choices. But then you have the cast. I mean, Cate Blanchett, you're never going to get me to say anything negative about that woman. Never in a million years. There's a surprising amount of dialogue about Anne Hathaway's boobs. Not that I'm complaining, but it was unusual to be in this supposedly feminist movie and be talking about how amazing a chest she has. And, everything is perfectly...
feminist to me, I don't know. I don't know what kind of feminism you are.
Perfectly inoffensive, and then James Corden shows up, and immediately I'm like, "Oh, this is not going to get any better from this point on." And I was taking notes, and 87 minutes in, I wrote down, "This is actually Ocean's 7." And then the moment I wrote that down, Anne Hathaway becomes part of the crew, and I'm like, "Did I remember this incorrectly?" And maybe I was just spitballing with my brain because I couldn't make sense of what I was watching. I don't know. And then you have Awkwafina, who has so much natural personality and doesn't get a personality here. And it's just kind of disappointing. I mean, I wouldn't say that this is a bad movie. I would say that it's a gentleman's 5, or rather a lady's 5.
There it is.
I'm not going to call it good.
Is there... Do you think Awkwafina was, toned down from normal Awkwafina? I mean, I've seen her do a few other things, and granted, she's doing... What she does here is what she does in everything I've seen her ever do, but this was before all that, so I assumed we, as a society, weren't quite yet tired of her, as we are now, and so I
disagree. I'm not tired of her at all.
Oh, well, you better get tired of her.
Well, I know she was the dragon in Raya and the Last Dragon because I have kids, but I don't know what else she's done.
She's in Shang-Chi.
I don't know what that is. It sounds like
it's a Marvel movie.
Okay. So no dragons in that. Not interesting.
Yes, actually,
there's a dragon in there.
Yeah, there's a dragon in it. Yeah.
And Awkwafina's the dragon.
No.
Okay. Well, then what do you want from me?
She's, I think she's like a pickpocket card shark. I mean, pretty close.
Oh, well, there you go. All right, so I really like Ben's nitpicking because, you know, it is important. You know, when he was talking about the glasses, it's like, yeah, that's a good point. But then I thought Kaleigh deflected that well. It's like, well, look at James Bond. It's like, you know, that's fair. You have to suspend a lot. I think with these kind of heist movies is you probably have to suspend a smidge more disbelief than you maybe think you should have to, but it is to make it fun and keep the tempo going, right? So you keep moving along from scene to scene and you don't get completely jammed up in the details.
Not a single one of these Oceans movies has a realistic heist in it.
Right? No. And like we discussed in the last case too, like when did they sneak the magazines in to replace the money? Like they they say in the commentary, like, yeah, we don't know when that would have happened. Like you caught us, you know? So
you have to cheat at least once. You have to have one cheat.
Oh yeah, there's.
I think you can get away with a couple of cheats. I mean, you know, some of the stuff Ben brought up. I mean, I like, when did they get footage of the Met? Rihanna can clearly record video and then loop it.
Yeah, but Rihanna didn't. No, but Rihanna didn't know they would.
She didn't know why they wanted the stuff looped. That doesn't mean that she didn't.
You're assuming a lot because
I don't think so.
Surprised. I think you are. I mean, we're definitely assuming, regardless of what the motivations would be. We don't know whether A, they actually happened, or B, what they would have been, you know. So I don't. We would just be assuming too much.
I don't think so. I think we're assuming just enough. But you don't have to assume it if you don't want to. If you're against.
Well, I'm just saying. I think it's a stronger point in Ben's favor, and the
I just don't see
of, like, you would split it up amongst. You know, you're bringing more people into the job, you know, like you did bring the other guy in. Now you're bringing Anne Hathaway in. Like that is going to affect.
He might be doing it pro bono. I mean, you know, he was friends with Danny Ocean. He might be doing it just to help out the sister.
No.
What surprised me is that I didn't know Sandra Bullock was a whole new character because I didn't bother seeing 12 or 13. So I thought she had maybe been introduced in a previous one at some point. So to know
she was in jail. That's why she wasn't in the other movies. That was
but for only 5 years. I mean, she was clearly out at some
Those
point.
movies were over by the time she actually went to jail.
Yeah.
Were they?
Those movies end in 2007.
Right.
Well, there you go. Another point for Ben then.
Well, so that's. I mean, but of course she has to be an Ocean in order for it to be called Oceans something, you know. And as far as I think Ben brought up making a new franchise, it's like if you had a team of people pulling off a heist, everyone's just going to call it an Oceans movie anyway. You know, you're going to already draw that comparison, so you might as well just get out in front of it and take the franchise name. And but you know, the only problem is I think a majority of people who enjoy Oceans films would not enjoy an all-female cast of anything, which I think is reflective of part of why this film did do all that well.
All right, so
that's a pin's job. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, because like Ryan likes the Ocean. He's the only guy I know who's like really likes the Ocean's movies. I think
I'm not saying there's nobody who likes the Ocean's movie. I'm just saying that a lot of people that go for it for the action and, you know, the exhilarating are not likely to like the old female cast. Same thing that happened with Ghostbusters, right? It was just the wrong franchise to try to do this with because that fan base is not going to be open to that kind of thing.
Well, maybe. One of the things that kind of bugged me was with the twist being that they actually stole more stuff. It's just like, man, that just, first of all, it's the season 1 finale of Leverage, like almost beat for beat, you know, like it's borderline plagiarism. You know, and it just struck me as so weak. It's like, oh, that's the twist. You know, it's like it's more formulaic, but I probably would have preferred to see like something go wrong, think on their feet, get out of the situation. But you know, they did do their own thing. But we have talked a lot about the cases in the movie, so it is probably time to start locking in some verdicts. Mr. Maynard Bangs, how do you find?
Well, I got to go first. All right.
Why not? Ladies first.
So I had a lot more fun in this movie than I thought I was going to. And I was originally supposed to prosecute it too. And then Ben hated it so much. He was like, please let me take over prosecution. I'm like, good. We need to do that more often when you legitimately hate something. And I'm glad because I actually had a pretty good time in this movie. Are there plot holes to the heist? Yes. I think you can say that about every heist movie, and including at least Ocean's 11, which is the only other one I saw, seem to have just as many, you know. They don't make movies about the heists that don't go right because they're not interesting. Everyone just gets arrested and it's over. I thought the cast was
all the money gets burned up in a crematorium.
right. I thought that the cast was really great because I didn't look it up before it started. So just like when Helena Bonham Carter shows up, I'm just like, yes, excellent. And I was very happy about it. And again, I'm kind of tired of the whole Awkwafina gag, but that was exactly the kind of character you'd expect for her. And I thought Rihanna was quite a pleasant surprise. I thought she did a pretty dang good job for someone who's really not like an actor. So I generally really liked the cast. I do think the plot kind of has some problems. It probably could use a little bit more style, but I don't see this, besides the directorial hand, like Ryan mentioned, being missing. I don't see this sticking out as being much worse than probably any of the other Ocean's movies. It might even be better than a couple. So,
well, you've only seen the one though, so
right? But I'm assuming this is the second best modern Ocean. Actually, this is the second best Ocean's blank movie I've seen. Period. So I'm gonna go not guilty.
All right, Ryan Luis Rodriguez.
Well, I want to make it hard for Dylan. So
Why?
I'm going to go guilty.
Well, you're not making it hard for him.
No, so there's two very strong cases, and I really appreciate, I do appreciate what each side had to say, like there are some issues. I found it to be a little trying at times, but the cast is very strong. Sandra Bullock actually can carry this movie, and I think that speaks very well to her as just in her craft of acting, never mind that she's a woman and it's the whole female
and does she speak German, or does she think she just knew her lines really well?
She was born in Germany and spent most of her childhood in Germany, so she actually she actually can speak German. And actually too, that was my favorite scene when she talked to Heidi Klum in German, because I love Heidi Klum, she's great. So anyway, no, the movie had a lot of interesting little things going on, and it was, if this is the lane that these kind of Ocean's movies, like if they're going to go all the way like Fast and Furious, and they could keep it consistent like this, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly acceptable. It's not great, but it's not bad. And we're here looking for bad movies today, so I'm going with not guilty.
Unbelievable. Ryan, it's your chance to make it all the way.
No.
Usual. Come on, help me.
He's not going to pivot. Unanimous is the word.
Unbelievable. I was unanimous is the word I was trying to think.
Well, hey,
wow.
You were right. The Ocean's fans didn't like the
I know. I called it.
So you did. I thought you were spreading yourself too thin, but
nope.
No.
Directly correct, as usual.
Yeah, 100%.
But let's get out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Wait, that's my line. Let's get out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of The People versus Ocean's 8, we find the defendant not guilty of being a bad movie.
Oh, no.
Boo! We love you, Sandra Bullock.
The verdict is so rendered. I hereby sentence Ocean's 8 to, well, not sentence. It's free to go. Plan maybe a sequel, but you have to keep James Corden out of it. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Court is adjourned.
Oh, wait! Before you hit the hammer,
I didn't hit
Halle
it yet.
Berry. Halle Berry has to be in it too. Halle Berry and Sandra Bullock. Please,
they
Your Honor.
notoriously hate each other. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Court is
damn.
adjourned.
Oh well, we tried.
This is Grumbly Grumblerson, the angriest correspondent from the Gabagool Gazette, reporting to you from outside the goddamn Reels of Justice. Ben Haslar, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be able to sleep. I don't love this movie. It is, as one juror put it, a gentle person's 5 out of 10 for me. But I did have fun pausing that whole heist thing every 5 seconds or so to see what was wrong with it. And I kept coming up with this big long list, and I got to rant about it. And it was at that point that I requested to be able to do it. And it was a lot of fun for me. And also to go against Miss DuLac, who I'm a great admirer of. So it wasn't a bad day.
Thank you. I find you infuriating. And here comes Kaleigh DuLac. Excuse me, could we get a word on how you feel about today's verdict, as if I care?
Yes, I'm actually feeling quite elated. I do acknowledge that there were some problems, and so I think that the prosecution put on a great exhibit. However, I think that the jury saw true and that this was not a bad film, and that I do hope to see a sequel in the future that addresses these similar problems and might even be better than this.
That'll never happen. Thank you both for such terrible answers. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
I fucking love Grumbly. He's
angry.
gonna have an aneurysm on the courthouse steps.
The vein is popping on my forehead right now.
I can
can.
It's a podcast, but I can see it.
Yes. So fun case. Kaleigh, did you see this movie in theaters or you held out for a while?
Like I said, I held out because I was, I just didn't want to see another terrible. I don't want to say this, but I didn't want to see like the female version of Ghostbusters. You know what I mean?
Okay, the female version of Ghostbusters is excellent, but why?
It's not excellent.
It is great, and you're all.
It's not as good as the first, but it's great.
I wanted
Andy Garcia is great.
Don't call me the mayor from Jaws. Don't you dare call me the Jaws mayor.
Ever compare me to the Jaws mayor? She thinks they're all doors. She thinks they're all doors. She's a scientist. It's so sad.
It's so sad.
A lot of funny stuff in that movie. But
that was it.
No, there's a lot more, but that's on trial for another day.
It's the second best Ghostbusters movie, and I will stake my claim on that.
I'm with you.
Oh my god! Wait, second best Ghostbusters?
I'll go with third.
It's too far afield.
I don't know. They're all kind of fun. Anyway, they're not on trial. So Kaleigh, what's been keeping you busy? You're bringing life into the world or something?
I am. I'm 2 weeks from my due date. So
Congratulations! Oh, I'm excited.
And since this takes place in the future, may I be the first to congratulate you?
Yeah,
it airs in May.
you might be listening to this, through the cries of a child. I don't know.
Yeah.
And do you know
if joy at my success?
That's right. Do you know if it's a boy or a girl? Do they know this, or is it going to be a surprise? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's so great.
Well, Rob is still a pretty good name for a girl. So
Robin.
I want to think about it. Robin. That's a lovely ring to it. But that's great. We look forward to that, which has already happened probably by now.
And now she's pattering to our voices because I'm assuming Reels of Justice is going to be on the whole time. So
she found out I edited it to make it so that I won.
Well, this is like when you play classical music for children.
Yes. Right? If you listen to Ryan Luis Rodriguez, it does raise your IQ 3 points.
But you get very angry. So we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So what is a movie that you think people should see?
Yeah, so I don't know if this has been recommended before, but I wanted to recommend a movie that was a primarily female-dominated movie that I thought was incredibly strong, had a wonderful plot. It's called The Woman King, and this takes place in a place that actually is very familiar to me and comfortable for me. I went to Africa to do an archaeological dig back when I was in college in this site that they are traveling back in time during the era that I was excavating to have this fun action, intense movie. And so it was very fun for me to watch, to see these characters come alive, seeing all of these areas that I actually went and visited in modern day and seeing their interpretation of what they would have looked like. And the plot just keeps on giving. It has twists and they're all very exciting and there's so much strength throughout the whole movie. So I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, the cast for that one is really terrific. I saw a lot of the trailers for it, but I know there was a lot of backlash about some historical accuracy to it.
Well, it didn't like.
That's true.
It wasn't trying to be a mockumentary or anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's not trying to sit there and retell the story of some, particular people. It's just trying to take an idea from this culture and create a very interesting dynamic. So I think if you're looking at it like expecting it to be like this perfect rendition of history, it's going to leave you a little bit wanting. But it's still a fun, like, unique culture that we really didn't see anything in modern history for films or books. At least I haven't.
Yeah. Well, I will definitely end up seeing it, I think, because Viola Davis looks like rock hard in it. And that's awesome. She looks
she got jacked for that movie.
Sure.
I wanted to see it. It just came out in October, and that's when we're doing all this horror stuff, and all my movies are spoken for.
That is true.
Man, doesn't like Ocean's 8, doesn't want to see The Woman King. I'm picking
I want to see it.
I am right. Doesn't like James Corden.
I do not like James Corden. I'm okay with that. I'll stand with that.
A real pattern emerges. Big Ben, what have you got? What's your recommendation?
I'm not going to dig too deep for my recommendation this week and go with one that I know and love off the top of my head that has heisty tones, and that's Christopher Nolan's magnum opus, Inception. There's so much to love about this film. It's clever and intelligent writing, its imaginative plot, its great performances, and of course the phenomenal special effects, all done practically. Doctor Strange attempted to do many of the same sorts of special effects, pretty much by ripping it directly off, by folding the cities, but it doesn't do it nearly as cool as Inception does, because it's all CGI. When the city is folding in Inception, you can feel its presence. You can feel the heavy objects looming over you. But in the CGI version, you merely observe them because they don't feel real, because they're not. So check out Inception. It's streamable on HBO and Netflix.
I'm shocked you haven't already recommended this, and I'm checking, and apparently you haven't.
No, I mean, I have a few that I love that just didn't seem like I haven't had the connective tissue to our cases yet.
Right, I've heard you talk about that movie plenty in the past, and I would have thought for sure you would have already recommended it. So in keeping with our theme of gangs of lady criminals, I am recommending 1965's Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill. A 1965 exploitation film directed by the great American raunchy auteur Russ Meyer, though this entry is substantially less smutty than the rest of Meyer's lascivious oeuvre.
Boo!
After murdering an opposing drag racer and kidnapping his girlfriend, a trio of go-go dancers hide out an isolated ranch where they plan to rob and murder a lustful, disabled old coot. The femme fatales in this film are about as fatale as femmes come, especially the mercilessly vicious Varla, superbly performed by Tura Satana, who literally beats several men to death with her bare hands. Wait, correction, I do believe she's wearing gloves. Although the film initially flopped commercially and critically, it has received a very generous reappraisal in the years that followed for its revolutionary depiction of female empowerment and its inclusion of a heavily implied same-sex relationships between two of the women, and is now considered among some of the greatest films of all time. Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill is currently available to stream on the Roku channel, which is apparently a lot like Tubi, but worse.
I saw it at a sold-out Alamo showing, and that's the way to see it if you can.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a lot of fun, and for a Russ Meyer film, I mean, it's pretty toned down. So, I would definitely recommend it. Schlenzo, what have you got for us?
Some could say you did.
I did recommend it. Yes, that's the whole point of this segment.
I had a mission this week. I needed to dive deep into Tubi's extensive and well worth viewing catalog to find a movie that had connective tissue to today. I needed something. What is a male genre but has a female cast? Surely, Tubi, you have something for me. And lo, it did deliver. And that movie is called Lady Bloodfight, which is a refreshing and empowering narrative where women take the center stage. Released in 2015, this action-packed film follows the journey of a courageous and skilled female fighter who enters the world of underground martial arts and its deadliest competition, the Kumite. by showcasing the tenacity, resilience, and unwavering spirit of its female characters. Lady Bloodfight serves as a captivating reminder that women can excel and triumph in any blood sport. With its thrilling fight sequences, the less than compelling storyline, this movie offers a unique and engaging perspective on the traditionally male-dominated genre. This movie invites viewers to celebrate the strength and capabilities of women in their pugilistic pursuits. Streaming on Tubi. God bless you, Tubi. One day you'll hear all my praise, and I will get that Tubi t-shirt.
I also watched this movie.
You put your kids through college, you owe it to them.
I also watched this movie, and I would not recommend it. Though I was pretty impressed with most of their martial arts. I mean, they seemed.
Well, you have a problem with female empowerment. We know
they took
that's why you don't
classes, sure, but
can you imagine like going to a high school
film?
Can you imagine like going to like a reunion and people are like, "I'm a banker, I'm a teacher," and like, "Yeah, I'm directing Lady Bloodfight." Like,
I would want to talk to that guy all day.
I mean, based on the title, I was expecting something much worse. But Ryan, what have you got? Send us on home.
My recommendation this week is yet again completely unrelated to our case. From 1930, it's Feet First, starring the iconic and sadly somewhat slept-on Harold Lloyd. Unlike Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin, Lloyd did not direct his own films, but the sheer effort and physical dexterity he exuded in his physical comedy puts him on the same plane, as far as I'm concerned. Feet First, one of Lloyd's early talkies, is, for the first hour, kind of boring. Then Lloyd is dropped onto a scaffolding dangling above a busy city street, and shit gets intense. It's basically an updated, stakes-increased version of the clock hang in Safety Last, but it severely triggered my acrophobia, and I was on the edge of my goddamn seat. Feet First is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel.
So what, like spiders came out and got him?
That's arachnophobia.
Oh!
Thank you, Ben, because I can't keep up with that guy.
It was right there, God.
I was like, I couldn't understand where that left.
My genius is wasted on you. I've been listening to Ryan so much, my IQ has gone up, you see.
Yeah, I have to see more Harold Lloyd. Does he have ones where he doesn't hang from stuff?
Yes. A great one is Speedy, which I think I recommended on the show.
Oh, yes.
The Kid Brother, excellent. He's got plenty of good stuff.
I have a lot of his stuff lying around. You can find a lot of it on archive.org for people interested.
Is he the guy that the house fell over on, or is that Buster Keaton?
That's Buster Keaton.
Okay.
Oh, but he's the guy that hangs from the clock tower, like by the arms of the clock.
Okay.
Yes,
wait, does he also do that? Does he also go up and down on the train, or is that Buster Keaton again?
That's Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
Ah, man. Maybe I've just seen more Buster Keaton movies than Harold Lloyd.
Buster Keaton is also great. You can't really go wrong with any of the physical comedians in that time. So, and with that, we are all at a show, but we want to thank our guest, Kaleigh DuLac, for joining us. Thank you, Kaleigh.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad that you could beat Ben so badly. And you're lucky you didn't have to go against me because I would have won. We hope to have you back, but I know you're going to be so busy soon with motherhood that we don't know when that'll be. Probably
we'll see.
Not till the kids talk.
Maybe around Christmas time.
Maybe.
I always do love doing a good Christmas movie comparison listen-in. So
okay, that sounds fair. It's a date.
I like it.
It's our annual tradition, really.
And then we can have the baby like gurgle on mic or something. It'll be adorable. People will love it.
Don't exploit babies like that.
They love it.
Gurgle, damn you, gurgle.
We look forward to that. And we look forward to everyone else joining us again as well as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Count it.
Blanche it.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.